Love often takes unexpected twists and turns, but that just makes the story more interesting.
I caught her, and that was it.
Oh my goodness, I think I'm falling in love with this boy.
I told my husband, if you marry me, you're going to laugh for the rest of your life.
Join us as we continue to bring to life the Canadian love stories of romance, family, friends, and community.
Well, love is the most important thing.
A lot of the industry is focused around a very specific kind of couple. Vendors will say, oh, we're inclusive or we're accepting. Oftentimes you go to their website and you don't see any representation there. And you really have to dig for it. And I didn't want couples, whoever they were, to question whether or not they could be there. I want people to know right away as soon as they come in, this is a space for everybody.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Canadian Love Map podcast. I am sitting here with Madison, and we have competing sunglasses on today, but it's all about love.
It's all about love.
Heart-shaped sunglasses because we're getting into the spirit of things. It's that time of year.
It is. It is that month, the love month, our time to shine, truly. This is like the best time for us.
February, sponsored by the Canadian Love Map podcast. Tell me how you found this story.
So this one was very fun because her partner was on another podcast that we do. I then find Ashley, and then Ashley's on our podcast. So everyone's connected. Everyone's feeling the love. It was a match made in heaven.
That's called a love map match.
That it is.
Not only does she do a very love-based business, but I think she's very open-hearted, and I really get the sense that she's bringing love into the world all the time.
She is, and she's also bringing heart-shaped sunglasses.
Yay, these were a gift. We have to be transparent.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Hey, Ashley, welcome to the Canadian Love Map.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I specialize in personal questions. So, my first one, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you happily hitched?
I am not hitched,
What?
but I am happily partnered.
Oh, okay. Expliquez, s'il vous plaît.
I was married at one time.
Oh my gosh, we are getting personal right
We
away,
very much
listeners.
are. You know, it's funny, I'm probably my ideal client for Happily Hitched. My partner and I have been together for 10 years, and we've just been super busy and just haven't really talked about actually going through with the ceremony, that sort of thing. I've also done the big wedding before, have no interest in doing a big wedding again.
You're preaching to the choir.
Right?
I learned that lesson myself.
So I am exactly who usually comes and gets married at Happily Hitched.
Okay. I didn't know we were going to dive so deep, but thank you for the very transparent answer. That was amazing. And I think now we've given everybody the idea that Happily Hitched is actually a business that you and your partner started. And I love the idea. I'm going to ask you another strange question to start, though. And this is something I'm really enjoying asking people when I just meet them socially these days, because it's hard not to get a good answer. No pressure. What is exciting you these days?
There are so many things on so many fronts. On a personal side, I've been doing some strength training, and I've never had a physical activity before that I've done that I've enjoyed and wanted to stick with. So to me, it's just learning my body and getting back into my body and feeling strong. And it's not about how I look now, like going and exercising. It's not about punishing my body and trying to make it look a certain way, but to just feel good in my body. And
I think we're sharing a brain. You're telling my story. I can't wait to hear about your story of your business. But first, I'd like to know a little bit about you, if you don't mind, because we are really talking about love and a love-based enterprise today, but also a great deal of creativity from your part in terms of deciding that there was this opportunity and this hole in the offerings, and you just sort of jumped right in. With both feet, or all 4 feet, you and your partner.
That's it. Well, and I think that's something that we have a habit of doing in general, just in our lives. We moved to Nova Scotia in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic.
Where from?
Toronto.
Okay.
We were one of those people.
What month? And isn't it funny that we all can probably go, okay, 2020, which one month? And
Right.
we know a lot about
Mhm.
the story given that timing.
It was October 2020.
Aha.
We were both working in the events industry in Toronto. And of course, with COVID, that was one of the first industries to shut down.
Mhm.
So I was able to work remotely for a good part of the pandemic. But we're sitting there thinking, why are we living here? We don't want to be here right now. We actually didn't want to be there for quite a while, but we were so busy and it just was never a good time. And that was the time we had some space to kind of think about what we really wanted with our lives and where we wanted things to go with each other. And we were sitting over dinner one night and I said, you want to move to Nova Scotia? And
Really?
he thought about it for a few seconds and then, yeah, you know what? Let's do it.
Wow. Okay. Why Nova Scotia? Was there a background reason? Do you have roots in Nova Scotia?
I do, yeah. So my grandparents are from North Sydney.
Oh, wow.
But they did move
you're
to
a
one.
Cape Bretoner at heart. I understand.
I was raised by East Coasters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always felt like home. I've not spent a ton of time here before we moved here, but every time I was here, it just felt comfortable, felt like home. He had never really spent much time here at all. He spent, I think, a week here in the winter for work once, and I was surprised he ever wanted to come back after that.
Mhm.
But he said yes, and we just, within, I think, a couple months, we had packed up our cars and our dogs and moved out here.
I love that. And I know that you were part of an exodus from other parts of the country, especially big cities, where they said, we're going to Nova Scotia. It's sort of like the Beverly Hills hillbillies, where they loaded up the truck and they moved to Nova Scotia.
It's so great. Well, and a lot of people ask if it was because of how safe it was here during the pandemic. And that was definitely a plus, but it wasn't the draw. It was really, honestly, just having the time and the focus to be able to make those plans and make that shift in our lives. It was being forced on us anyway. So why stick with something that wasn't working anymore, that we really wanted to get out of? Why not come somewhere where it's beautiful, we feel happy and fulfilled?
Okay, so you get here.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you say, okay, let's go into business?
Pretty quickly. So I had the idea to do these sort of pop-up weddings in Toronto before we moved. But I didn't want to go into other spaces. I thought, well, why don't I just have my own venue? Vegas has been doing it for decades and it's working for them. I see a place for this now, even before the pandemic. And then everything shut down. So that was probably good I didn't start it there. And then we moved here, and I took a couple of years to get my feet under me before I committed to getting a venue and getting all of that started. So what I did was I dug into the wedding community here, the wedding industry, and I was planning the larger weddings
Right.
for the first couple of years.
Which is what most people in that space are doing, right?
Yep.
And did you enjoy that?
I did. It's the thing with planning weddings, it's all about love.
Mhm.
And everybody was happy to be there and they want to celebrate and they're having a great time. But it was during that time when I was really starting to see there is that place for something that is smaller, a little bit larger than the courthouse, but still feels very wedding and special.
What drove you to that realization?
I think mostly it was about talking to the couples after their weddings. So debriefing, and I heard this a lot. It was a beautiful day. We loved it. It was amazing. We couldn't imagine something better or more beautiful. But it was so expensive.
I was going to say, but now we're going to be broke for the next
Yeah.
10 years.
And knowing what we know now, would we have put so much into certain areas? And I would try to coach a little bit as we were going along, but this is also their vision. This is what they want. And people don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
So I would give them all of the options. And if in my professional experience, where people tend to get the most bang for their buck, but it really depends on the person. And some people really want fresh florals, and that's where they want to put all of their budget. Some people don't care at all about flowers, and they just really want to have a really cool band.
Yeah.
Right, so
That's cool. And a cool party.
Exactly.
But I can sort of see that you would show them all the options, but you almost like a therapist, you want to hold space for them, but you don't want to try to push them in one direction or the other. You want to allow them to come to their own conclusions. And yet you're standing there having had the experience as I have, I think that when you have the big wedding, it ends up being so much more about the show. It's performative to some extent.
Sure.
Whereas if you then have, as you may find out, if you have a really small wedding, which was what my second one was, it was just, less than 10 people in the room and the judge, and it was about what was being said and the vows that were being made rather than, all the parents' friends and the people you don't know and all the celebration is great.
100%.
But so I see there's a very valid path either way.
Sure.
And people are going to choose what they want.
There's always going to be a place for the larger weddings. For a lot of reasons. One, people's visions, families, cultural things, religious things. So there will always be a place for that. But again, they're for folks who've already had the big wedding, or maybe who are just really looking at their finances and saying, we can't afford that. Even if we want it, we can't afford it. But then there are a lot of people who just don't want that at all. Right off the bat, that's plan A, is not to do something like that.
Okay, so I'm going to offer one more thing about my story.
Yes.
I'm oversharing today. There was a funny dynamic for us because we got engaged at Christmas and we invited our friends and family to an engagement party right after Christmas. And they showed up and there was a sign on the wall that said just married. And we had been just married with this very small cluster of people. And then everybody came for the party and they thought they were celebrating our engagement. And we had been happily hitched. So yes, I am on the page that you are writing right now. It's really, I think there's a lot of wonderful things about it. So tell me a little bit more about what you offer and why.
Okay. Happily Hitched has all-in-one packages. So every package comes with just as the piece, photographer, cake, and bubbly, and the space. So whether you have 2 people or 20, it's all there for you. You're not vetting vendors. You're not going out searching for them. You're paying one fee to one person, and it's all taken care of. So
Sounding easy.
and that's the appeal.
I love that already.
Right. So
You're making me want to get married again. Kidding. Sorry, Annie.
well, when we were setting up the space, we have this neon sign that says Happily Hitched, and my partner Jay and I took a photo in front of it, and we were and then we had so many people messaging. I was like, oh, really? And they were so excited. I was like, oh no, sorry, this is not an announcement. This is just a nice photo of us.
Psych.
That was great. But people are looking for solutions like that. And especially after COVID, when we had the wedding boom there for a while, vendors were booked out a couple of years in advance. There are only so many vendors and so many couples.
Right.
So being able to connect people with people I've already vetted and know produce quality work and are great to work with and would really give them a nice, beautiful wedding. It's that peace of mind, I think, is really what I'm offering.
So have you spent time in Vegas?
No, not yet.
And was it sort of inspired by
A little
the
bit.
Vegas wedding?
I mean, I took little pieces of it. People joke. They're like, oh, well, so can we just go out for drinks at Pizza Corner or downtown and then just pop in and get married? And I mean, as fun as that sounds, legally, no. You do have to get a marriage license. You can get it in the same day that you get married, though. You walk in, you pay the fee, you fill out your forms, and as long as everything looks good, you get it the same day and walk out. You can get married the same day.
Wow. So you're sort of a concierge as well.
Yep.
You have that knowledge. You can really guide people along. Do you have Elvis?
No, but we do have a drag queen who can marry people.
Oh, wow.
Devastation from Station DRT.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So
Wow.
she we've had a couple of weddings now. Actually,
So
one of them.
she has the certification
Yep.
required.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, isn't that cool? That
Yeah.
also tells me that your focus is very inclusive. I assume that's the case.
Absolutely.
Speak more about that if you would.
As a queer woman myself, I definitely feel a need for that. I know we're very straight presenting with my partner and I, but we are both queer. And I will say when I was planning weddings, especially the larger ones, a lot of the industry is focused around a very specific kind of couple. And although some vendors will say, oh, we're inclusive or we're accepting, oftentimes you go to their website and you don't see any representation there.
Right.
And you really have to dig for it. And I didn't want couples, whoever they were, to question whether or not they could be there. And even have to ask that awkward question of, is it okay? Or to have to try to feel out that vibe. It's just, I want people to know right away as soon as they come in that this is a space for everybody.
Okay, there's the love word again. I really love that. That's beautiful. And you're right that, if you are not of the community, as strange as that sounds, it may not just be on your radar as a business person.
Sure.
Which is a fault or a flaw, but it's wonderful when a company is really very forward thinking and really says it right out front, like, hey, everybody come and get happily hitched.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've actually taken steps to make sure that we're working on policies and procedures and that sort of thing, so that we're saying that, but we're also putting our money where our mouth is, right? So we are Rainbow registered, which through the CGLCC, the Canadian 2S LGBTQIA plus Chamber of Commerce. And so they actually, there's a process and they do vet you as well. So it's not just putting a sticker and saying, hey, we're
queer friendly or anything. Yeah.
It's how are you going to work with things that arise, that some tricky situations that could happen, really talking about how we are going to deal with that. Do you have gender neutral bathrooms? That sort of thing. It's the language we use on our forms. So I don't use gendered language like bridegroom. I use partner A, partner B, that sort of thing.
We couldn't share the great stories that we do here on the Canadian Love Map podcast without the amazing support of Charm Diamond Centers. They are Canada's largest family-owned jeweler, and they're proud to be putting love on the map. The folks at Charm Diamond Centers are thrilled to be a part of your love story. So visit charmdiamondcenters.com or one of your local stores. Love starts here. What do you love about what you do?
Oh, I just love
seeing I wish I could show a picture of her face right now. She really does love it. It's legit.
I love love.
Yeah.
And it sounds so corny. And I've been asked that question several times, and that's the best answer I can ever give. I try to find other more eloquent ways of saying it, but I love love. And I'll say that almost every wedding I cry.
Do you? Then she's crying now. Okay. I'm doing a play-by-play. Okay, there's a tear rolling out of her right eye. It's
I'm not that good of an actor,
its way
I
down
promise.
beside her nose. Sorry, just kidding.
It's just and especially with the more intimate weddings. You were talking about the whole kind of production of some of the larger weddings, and those are so much fun. And I remember back to my own big wedding. Sometimes I try to think back and I can't remember what I said during our vows. And I don't remember specific moments because it just felt like such a big, overwhelming thing.
Blur.
Total blur. If I didn't have photos, I'd be like, was I even there? I don't know. Like, what happened? But, and that's great. And it's so much fun. But with the small weddings, I see this all the time. People are really in the moment with each other and they get to spend time with their new partner.
Yeah.
Their spouse. I mean, I guess they're not a new partner, but this new level in their relationship, or this new public-facing declaration of their love for each other, and they're just soaking in it with each other and the nearest and dearest, literally the people who are the closest to them. It's
there's
really
a beautiful
beautiful
intimacy about that,
Yeah.
isn't there? That's really nice. Do you love your life in Halifax?
Oh, so much. Yeah. Living in Toronto, I was near water. We had Lake Ontario. It was there.
It's not the same as the ocean.
No. Well, and I remember years ago
Sorry.
there was some ads trying to get people to move to Nova Scotia. And I remember on the TTC, I'm sitting there and there's an ad that says, "Hey, Ontario, I hear you have a lake. That's cute."
That's good. That's clever.
Look, there are a lot of great things about Toronto, and I do miss
sure.
things about
and it
it.
offers so much.
Absolutely.
More than a small place can, but they're different. They're apples and oranges.
And I would say that my life here feels more full and fulfilled. I have more of a community here, professionally and personally. I also find that my time outside of work, I can go 10, 15, 20 minutes anywhere in any direction and be somewhere beautiful and just really disconnect from work and be in a beautiful space and just ground myself.
Hello, Nova Scotia Tourism. I just want to hook you up with Ashley, who might be an excellent poster girl for you. She could do your ads from now on. No, that's it. That's beautiful. And wherever people land that suits them, it could be anywhere in the country, anywhere on the Canadian love map.
Yes.
And as long as, it suits them, and it's about finding that place where you feel content. And yeah, that is, I'm going to tell you, that's music to my ears, that you enjoy it so much. And I also can speak as someone who is at a point in my career where I love my jobs because I do a variety of things, but I really don't do anything that I don't love doing. And there is something so delightful, and I am so grateful for that. And speak to what that's like to do something for a living that is fun, rewarding, and it doesn't feel like work a lot of days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I actually had another career before I was in events and weddings specifically. I was an addictions worker for almost 8 years.
Oh, Ashley, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different world.
And that was work, right? I mean, as much as I did enjoy the work that I did to a certain extent, you have to if you're in it for that long. I enjoyed the people I got to meet. I was inspired by them all the time. The most resilient, beautiful people you've ever met in your life. But it does a lot. It sucks a lot out of the soul to just be seeing people hurting all of the time.
And there's a burnout, I'm
There
sure,
is.
in that. Yeah.
I think about the burnout rate is about 4 years.
Wow.
And I was almost 8 at that point. So it was time.
But what the two, I mean, this is obvious probably, but the two professions, while very different, have in common that you're a helper.
Yes.
And you are helping people. And there is a joy in that, for sure. It's service.
Well, that's it. And when you were speaking earlier about almost being a bit of a counselor to the couples, I definitely relate to that because I use a lot of the same skills.
Yes. Oh my gosh, of course
Absolutely.
you do.
And events. I mean, I also do corporate events, and it's putting out fires all the time, and it's almost crisis mode. Sometimes you're just always just treading water and putting out fires and making sure everything's running smoothly. But so I have options of things that I want to do, and I'm not going to do anything that doesn't make me happy. I'm at that point now where I don't have to do that, and I'm very fortunate. Part of that is having such a supportive partner. And we've kind of both taken turns being that for each other when we were making shifts from things that we were doing before to things that we're doing now, and really reevaluating our lives and the kind of lifestyle we want.
But that also must have a lot to do with why people enjoy working with you, because don't we all want to work with people who are content and happy and just bringing great energy to the table, especially when we're talking about our wedding.
Yeah, you want someone to be as enthusiastic about it because, I will say this, when I was planning the larger weddings, a lot of couples say, I'm so glad I have someone who can talk about all of these little details and as excited as I am, because my friends are tired of hearing about it. They don't want to hear about it anymore. But I do. I want to hear everything.
Oh, that's great.
Love it.
Can you tell us about one particular really fun or really memorable wedding, or one that, really touched you?
From the chapel, kind of recently, we had a couple there, and the bride wasn't sure that, she thought her father was not going to be able to make it to the wedding. And it turns out that the groom had surprised her with being able to get her father there. So she was waiting out in the hall, ready to come down the aisle. We had her father inside the venue, and we said, we had to bring you in to sign a couple of piece of paper and get some logistics out of the way. She came in, he came around the corner, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. It was so great.
Nor is there now.
Yeah.
In the room.
It was
wow.
very
that's
emotional.
Beautiful.
That was fun. And we've had other fun things. Our Justice of the Peace Devastation, who was doing one of our ceremonies, the couple did not tell their guests that their officiant was a drag queen. So they all came in, and there's a drag queen standing there, and oh, what's this? What's going on here?
Am I in the wrong place? I thought I was here for a wedding. Yeah.
So we have fun things, touching moments. I always love when people bring their dogs. We've had a few of those. They steal the show a little bit, but it's worth it.
Any dogs that have been ring bearers?
I don't know that they've come down before the bride, but I don't know if anyone trusted them with a ring. They're a little all over the place, but yeah.
Have you had any particularly flamboyant weddings?
I think probably the ones that stand out the most are, of course, the ones that have devastation there, because she herself is a vision. She is beautiful and full of glitz and glam.
And what kind of energy does she bring to the ceremony?
Very lighthearted. It just really breaking the ice, and just lots of laughter. But then also these touching moments as well that are really tender and sweet.
Well, that's really sweet. It's hitting me in the heart right now, partly because of the time we are in and this strange January that the world is living through. And although this is probably going to air in February, we're recording it in January, and all of a sudden, the world feels less inclusive and welcoming. There are too many people right now in the world who don't take the attitude you should be able to love who you love.
Yeah. There's actually a beautiful mural on Grafton Street, which is right around the corner from the venue, and it said "Love Wins," and there's a heart and a beautiful pride flag, and it was part of one of the graffiti festivals that happens around. And I can get you the name of the artist because I do have, but a lot of art couples love getting their photos in front of that particular wall. It is really fun.
Yeah, and it feels empowering as well.
Absolutely.
Supportive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And it is interesting, isn't it, how a 2-word slogan can mean so much. Like you boil it down to 2 words, but boy, that speaks volumes. And it's really a whole book could be written. Love wins.
Absolutely.
Well, love won for you, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. I get a lot of people who ask me if I'm married because I have a wedding business. Like I said, I've done the big wedding, so if it happens, I'm going to be one of my ideal clients.
Yes, and isn't it wonderful that we do live in an age where you can make that choice about timing or whether to do it or not? And I think, we're a society at least that is much less judgmental about that. Like, if you don't want to get married, then I'm not pressuring you. I'm not trying to shame you. Remember, I started by saying, are you happily hitched? That was not about judgment or shame. That's like, I was curious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're not the first. You won't be the last to ask that.
Well, it's your own fault because you picked such a wonderful name for your business.
I know.
Happily Hitched.
Well, when the time comes, I know a place.
Yeah, and hitched really is a great way of putting it because you almost picture hitching a wagon to the, back of a car or something, and it's like easy peasy, let's go, boom.
Well, I looked up what that meant
when
I was trying to pick the name. Actually, Jay helped come up with the name. We love alliteration. It's great. But the whole idea of getting hitched, they say, is about hitching up a team.
Yes.
So you might have a couple of horses or a team, and you want them to be equally matched. Because you don't want one to be stronger or pulling ahead, or you want them to be able to be equally matched so that they're pulling evenly.
Okay.
So it's
mic drop. There's always a mic drop moment. I love what you're doing, and I'm so happy that you were willing to come and talk to me about it. I know we'll put information in the links to the posts that will allow people to reach out and find you if they want. And if some of our Canadian Love Map listeners get happily hitched through you, you'll have to come back and tell us about it.
Absolutely.
Or they will. You can send people to us. There you go. Madison is always looking for great stories.
I love it.
You are now an ambassador out in the world. You are a satellite operation looking for love.
And I will say, we have folks coming from other provinces to get married here.
Really?
So my first event in there was a vow renewal from a couple who live in Quebec. So we've had people from Quebec. We've had people from out west. We've had a couple from Greece. And Halifax is a great place because you can kind of fly in. We have all of the hotels and everything around here, so it's very convenient for people.
Okay, so all of a sudden, I'm thinking you probably also have all these great ideas. Say I'm someone from Calgary who's hearing this and saying, oh, well, we want to elope, but maybe we'll do it in Halifax. Maybe we'll go and see Ashley and get happily hitched in Halifax. Talk about alliteration. I know you've been here a short time, but can you offer them a lot of guidance in terms of where they should stay, where they should go in Nova Scotia, what they should do?
I have a lot of connections in tourism around here as well, and that's part of being part of the industry or the wedding industry as well. I've been able to travel to lots of different parts of the province for that. I've also explored it as a tourist or as somebody who is new here and seeing it through come from away's eyes, right? And also discover Halifax. That was one of the first places I reached out to when we moved here to get connections and find out what's going on and who I need to know and where I need to be.
Okay, then I might as well ask you this. Apart from that Love Wins sign, what are two more of your favorite picture locations, or you're finding that they're favorite locations of your clients in Halifax?
The waterfront, absolutely. Halifax knocked it out of the park with the waterfront. I mean, Toronto had a missed opportunity with their waterfront. They haven't developed it nicely. That is a destination, and it's a beautiful spot to be, and it's luxurious, and it's great.
Oh, the spot down by the Queen's Mark with this beautiful metal structure that is like a lighthouse, and there's another metal piece of huge art that is a sailboat.
Yes, yeah. And then if you turn the other way and look right up at the Citadel, right? So that's also really neat. So you've got some really dynamic spots right down there, and then also where the old kind of cobblestone.
Historic properties.
Right near the lower decks and that sort. People love getting photos there. So that's when we go down towards the water, and then there's also the public gardens. That's a great spot, and Argyle Street.
Oh, yeah.
It's very trendy to get some really fun sort of urban street photos now with weddings. And that's a great spot to do it. And especially when it's close to traffic, they can get right into the middle of the street and it's a lot of fun.
And then it becomes a party because everybody gets excited about seeing a bride and groom.
Oh, and they do. And we get honking and cheers and claps. And our couples have a blast going out onto the streets. Yeah.
Oh, what's that, Madison? Nova Scotia Tourism's on the line? Oh, okay. Okay, then we'll wrap up here so that they can talk to Ashley. Thank you so much for being here, for what you do, and being an advocate for love of all kinds.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I can talk about love all day, so this is great.
Thanks so much for listening to the Canadian Love Map. This podcast is presented and made possible by Charm Diamond Centers. It's hosted by me, Nancy Regan, and is produced and distributed by Podstarter. We love sharing love stories of all kinds, and that could include yours. So do you or someone you know have an uplifting tale to tell? Reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram using @CanadianLoveMap or email producer@podstarter.io. We'll be back next week with another love story to add to the map.
You've been listening to a Podstarter production.